Awesome. So welcome to managing your school district department. And the first thing that I want to do is to take the chance to explain how is this going to be. This is not going to be a monologue. It will be different, but let's talk about that right away. The agenda is really simple. I will talk about 3 different things during 20 minutes, hopefully. And then we will devote the rest of the time to have an open discussion, because after all, this is an Edu-Talk, right? And these slides were created in an interactive way. Therefore, we will be able to use the information that I'm going to present during our open discussion, and where you will have the chance to share your stories, experiences, questions, challenges, everything you want. So let's start. Why translation management in education settings? So the first thing is why management? And in simple terms, managing means that you have to tackle whatever comes at you with the resources that you have available, with the resources at your disposal. The challenging thing is that if we take this concept into an educational environment where you have so many language needs, managing becomes challenging. And the reason is because in your hands is the future of hundreds of English learners and their families and their communities. Therefore, whatever you do in terms of the translation services you provide, whether through your department or as an independent translator specialized in education, has to be superb, has to be the best, just because of this reality. So to achieve this superb translation service in this educational environment, with this so many language needs, the first thing that you need is to prepare. You need to prepare the field. If you're a translation department inside another department like student services, just to give a name, you need some resources that will help you keep track of things. You also need to have the tools that will help you do the job. And you also need to have some sort of guidelines on how you're going to do it. What are going to be the steps? And also during translation, because you prepare yourself for translation, and then during translation, you need to be prepared for the unexpected, and you need to know what to do when that happens. So you need to support to support your team if you are more than one in the office, or you need to have or come up with resources that can help you out if something goes wrong. So at the end, you can improve the process. You can improve your services as a department or your services as an independent translator in education. And these 3 things, when thinking about this idea, which by the way was presented by Clever Palma a year ago, he presented something like this. If we take these 3 things and put it in buckets or moments, like this happens before, I prepare before the storm, right? And then during the job, during the task, I support, and after the task, then I improve, then everything makes sense. And one of the other things that I thought when breaking down this idea presented by Clever was, what's going to be the result once you implement this? What are the benefits? It could be something like this. So I thought, well, if you integrate something like this in a school district environment, then you become nothing but the 5-star translation team. A translation team that is consistent, flexible, technology-driven, delivers quality to their communities, is collaborative with others, and is productive. And please don't worry about all the things that are here in this diagram, because I'm not going to sit down and talk about each one of these things, but they will serve us in the open discussion. So please remember this slide in case you want to go back to it, right? And let's start by talking about those moments I just mentioned. Let's begin with the first one, before translation. So you have a translation department in your school district, and the first thing, in my experience working with school district, the first thing that you need is to keep track of things. Like, before thinking about CAD tools and technology and how machine translation can help us or not, and you need to have an infrastructure, you need to have a skeleton, you need to have a set of steps on how to do things before thinking about other things like technology. So one of the core things that you need to have in your translation department is a fillable form. And you probably have one. Many of you, I'm sure you have something like this, which is a system where your requesters, they fill a form, and then you receive some files with some instructions about what to do with those files. And these requests come from special education, for curriculum instruction, from the marketing department of the school district, and so on. And at the same time, this fillable form is connected to a spreadsheet, and this spreadsheet is nothing more than an organized database of these requests over time, right? And if you have control of this so that you could, at the end of the school year, come up with reports about the activity of your translation department, imagine all the things that you could ask for. Like, just to give you an example, if you could track the volume, the pages that you translate, the services that you require per request, imagine all the things that you could do with your administrators. So one of the things that you should do before translation, before thinking about the rest of the things like CAT tool, is think about how to keep track of the things that we do every single day, so we can take that data and build a story with it and then ask for things. I will stop with that. We can have an open discussion about it. And let me talk about a little bit about this storage solution item that we have right here. Because in my experience working with school districts as a consultant, I realized that there's some sort of improvisation when it comes to organizing something as simple as files, as folders. And this creates a lot of friction, a lot of stress, like many might not find a specific file, for instance, because you deal with so many responsibilities in a day that it's really hard to keep track of this folder, this other file, or this request that we have in process. So having a folder structure gives you so much more command and ownership of the process. And today I wanted to show you something like this. If you don't have a folder structure, and this could be in your Google Drive, in your OneDrive, your Microsoft district, then you can just copy this structure. Maybe it can work for you, because the more structure you have, the easier it will be to control things, and you will feel less stress during overflow situations or where there's a lot of things to do at the same time. Just having this structure, having this skeleton, as simple as a file directory, really changed everything. So keep that image in your mind, and let's go back and continue talking about the other element that we have right here, which are their document templates. They're very important. Why? Because they speed up certain steps. And this is especially true when working with IPs that have different sections. If you could build templates based on those sections, so you could just fill the blanks every time you receive a new request, that really helps you save time. So you don't have to be building or fixing a document that is exported PDF. And you know what I'm talking about, because many of you have these challenges. So having document templates prepared before translation, it's a game changer. And the good news is that, as we wrote in the article about this topic, your Department of Education might already have these templates in Word document just ready for you to use. So make sure to check out your Department of Education website of your state and check out the resources that they have for materials in special education. And you might find something like document templates. Then moving forward to the next topic, I'm not going to stop in the CAT tool topic because that would be too extended. But I would like to talk about how important it is to have a qualified roster of linguists, whether independent or language companies. It's important to have solid partners that you can count on during overflow situations. And one of the key things that you can keep in mind is what are their cybersecurity processes, because there's a student data at risk, and the last thing that you want is to have data leakages, and that would be tremendously bad. So it's important to work with people that you know their processes, people that is transparent, and translation is not an exception. And lastly, you also need to make sure that you document all the processes. Everything is written somewhere. But we will talk about these things more in the after moment, okay? So I want to finish this moment right here, and I want to show a couple of questions so they can act as triggers. So in the open discussion, you can bring maybe something related to these questions. Are you tracking translation requests? Do you have a CAT tool? If you don't have one, what's your process? Is it working for you? Do you have folder strategy? Do you create templates to help you out with complex documents? Let us know in the open discussion, because we'll continue moving to the during translation moment. I will drink some water. When we talk about during translation as the second moment, we see that there are a couple of elements from the previous moment that remains here. And the reason why is because the decisions that you make in terms of the translators you work with, the technology you use, if you use any, and if you documented processes on how to do certain things, that will have a long-lasting impact during translation, always. And you will see that only by having documented processes on how to react to specific events, what to do in specific emergency situation, it's a game changer when you're already working. So what exactly I'm presenting here for the during translation moment? What is this about query management systems and unexpected translation updates? Well, in my experience, I have seen that big districts who have a huge volume of IB requests or a huge volume of bilingual curriculum requests, they have to interact with multiple stakeholders and multiple vendors. That means that you will receive questions, suggestions, feedback about things that are happening during translation. Like there's a typo, there's missing information about this student, what should we do? The translation found out that the student evaluation matches the other student evaluation, it's mixed up, and these things can happen. So how can you effectively, as a coordinator, manage these situations? Well, very simple. I like to show you how you can create a query management system. And again, this makes sense, especially when you're a big district and you have to handle so many things at the same time. Having something like this really changed everything, because I have seen districts that are working in a huge special education request of 60 IPs, and they're answering questions in long email threads, forwarding information to the point of contact to find an answer, to find a solution to the translator's question or problem. and it's just, there's just too much friction. And having something like this in just a Google spreadsheet or in an Excel online spreadsheet, so you can invite everyone to use a system like this instead of email, that changes everything. And this is just a query management sheet that you can create that basically summarizes all the questions and challenges your translators might experience during the translation process, and you can keep track of statuses. And the good news of using something like this, or the main benefits, is that once you, or maybe if you have challenges that were solved in this step, then you can, in the after moment, after translation, you can document the solutions. So you can plan ahead and be prepared for the future. So if you want to talk more about this, in the open discussion, we can just go back to this. And talking about unexpected translation updates, and this is something that Clever Palm mentioned last year in the IDC conference, is that it causes a lot of friction, especially when you have finished like 60% of the process and suddenly there's new information, and then you need to manually find out where's the new, what's the old. And this is certainly a cause of stress and a lot of friction. So what exactly I'm presenting here? Very simple. I wanted to introduce the CAT tool element on purpose because when you don't have one, and you have to deal with unexpected translation updates, you have to do everything manually. You need to identify the new information, transfer the new information to the new documents, find out what was translated, put it back. It's a lot of work. But surprisingly, even in the CAT tool market, we find striking differences. For instance, we have this CAT tool #1 that pretty much automates a couple of things, but you have to pulse all the translation activities, and you have to manually recalculate cost and renegotiate due times. And we have this CAT tool #2 that feels so nice because it seems connected to the cloud, and then you can submit those updates and the translators can continue working like anything and like nothing has happened, and it automatically recalculates everything for you. So you only need to renegotiate at due time if you need to. So I just wanted to present these huge differences, even when you use technology, and how different it is to tackle unexpected updates in these 3 different scenarios. And we can go back to this in the open discussion. And now I will leave some questions talking about the open discussion. So you can maybe remember a past experience about unexpected translation updates, or when they send you this complex PDF and you don't know what to do, or you know what to do, but you need to find that designer and you need to do this, and then you need to move resources and it takes time. So these questions are triggers for you to contribute to the discussion. We're about to finish. Then we have the after translation moment, which is nothing more than the place where you sit down and reflect on everything that happened. The funny story is that the 3 moments that I'm presenting, they happen all the time. They never stop. You have to prepare constantly, you have to translate constantly, and then you have to optimize and improve constantly. This is a never-ending process. So in this isolated concept of the after translation moment, we have 3 different activities. We have maintenance tasks, we have process optimization tasks, and we have knowledge base related tasks that are connected to that document processes concept that I presented in the before moment. So what maintenance is all about? Well, it's all about making sure that all the resources and tools that you have are working the way they should work. And if not, then you act and you fix what you need to fix, or you improve what you need to improve. And I wanted to show you this example of a translation team comprised by an Arabic translator called Esra, a Mandarin translator called Jean, and a Spanish translator called Lori. You will see that each one has specific skills and strengths, and that they collaborate in the translation department with multiple tasks. For instance, Ezra focuses on documenting those processes that are general to everyone, like best practices about working with specific documents from the management point of view. Well, you should do this, and then you should do this. While Jean and other day in the month write preparation tips for IPs, like what to do with those PDFs. Well, Jean knows a lot about how to work with Word and Acrobat, and so should sit down and write some best practices so everyone can benefit from those best practices and reproduce those that knowledge Jean knows. And Laurie, she's the techie person, and this district has a CAT tool. So Laurie, for her language, she takes care of cleaning the translation memory and do optimizations in the CAT tool. And sometimes she teams up with Ezra and helps her configure things in the CAT tool for the other languages and so on. So this is just an example of how important it is to work as a team when you have the team available, and how you can combine your skills into something special as this calendar with block time where everyone contributes to the maintenance of all the resources of the translation department. So we can go back to this in the open discussion. Then we have process optimization. This is related to what I just shared in the maintenance section. And we have this about knowledge base that is also connected. And what is this knowledge base thing? Well, it's simply a place, a second brain. And by the way, we published this in our blog, where you, as an active participant in your school district, you put your knowledge in a document. Basically just that. And in actionable steps, everyone can follow. It can be, they can reproduce, because maybe in the future, someone new will come to the district, and that person can benefit from having something like this. So the onboarding process is much easier. And in this document, you can share things like how to translate using a CAT tool. Well, you do this, and the step 2 is this, then you double click, you open it, and then you create a project, and you do this, or how do I protect the information of the students? Should I install an antivirus? Well, there's a cybersecurity section for that. Well, we recommend an antivirus, et cetera, et cetera. So these are things that you can do in your daily operations, and they are game changers. What I just presented, and I know it was a lot in a short time frame, is just the tip of the iceberg of all the possibilities that are available to you. And before closing these slides, then we can use them. Of course, I would like to show some questions related to what I just presented. Do you do this? Do you have a place where you share knowledge, like a centralized document? Do you have something like this? Have you identified, if you have a team, your skills and put them to the benefit of the processes of your department? Well, tell us. So it's talking time, and that's the end of the slide. So I will stop sharing for now, just for now, so we can engage in conversation. And let me see, pause sharing, stop sharing, and there we are. Perfect. So what do you think?
Yeah, very interesting points. I definitely feel that we need a really long, presentation in order to capture many of these great points. So the floor is open. If anybody has any any thoughts, any questions for Josh, feel free to engage. Got a couple of minutes for that, and then we can also continue the conversation in the smaller groups as well. But does anybody have like a general question right now for Josh in regards to his presentation? I know some people are asking if they can get a copy of the slides, which were very useful. Eva, go ahead.
Oh, hi, hello. Hi, Joshua. Nice to meet you. And that was wonderful, very inspiring. I also felt like, oh man, I have a lot of work to do. But my question is more about the training. Like, who would be the ideal person to be uh, managing this? Because we have two different things, right? We have the translation, all the different technicalities of the processes of translation, but we also have the complexities of the school districts. And so most more often than not, you have someone that is started on the educational side, incorporated into the language services. And so what would be the training that someone needs to have prior to managing?
Thank you, Alex. Hi, Eva. That's a great question. Um, it doesn't have an easy answer. I would say that, and this is something that I talk with other school district colleagues. Like, how do you start where when your background is not technical, when your background has nothing to do with this, but more teaching, for instance? Where do you start? And I would say that if I remember my answer at that time was that I believe that starting with something like mastering uh, the Google apps, Microsoft Word, Excel, PowerPoint, that makes a difference. Like having an intermediate knowledge of these apps that we use every day makes everything much easier and gives you more uh, creativity in terms of what can you achieve with them. Because if you know how to use Microsoft Word at an intermediate level, then you can do multiple things in terms of preparation of documents before submitting them for translation, if you have a CAT tool, of course. And even if you don't have one, then in you receive PDFs from your requester, then you can, if you have the knowledge about how to use Adobe Acrobat, if you have the knowledge about how to then fix an exported PDF into Word, then that makes a lot of difference. So I believe that the short answer would be to start with these skills, developing these skills, and then I feel that naturally you will start suggesting things and coming up with processes just with this new knowledge. So hopefully that kind of gives you some ideas.
Thank you, Eva. I believe Sonia is raising her hand. Go ahead, Sonia.
Hola, buenas tardes. And I just came from the dentist, so I sound funny. You don't know it, but I do. I
Hi,
just
Sonia.
wanted to respond to Eva. I know in our district, it's pretty much been trial and error and learning as we go. We went from getting requests on a paper system and getting things faxed. I've been here a very long time, so I know there's no faxes anymore, but about 5 years ago, we started using the Google Sheets for getting interpreting and translation requests, and talk about it being a game changer. Being able to keep track of what comes in, and then being able to mark who's a translator assigned. We also have grown because it was just 2 of us for the last 20 years. And then in the last couple of years, we've been able to add a third, and now we're a team of 5 at the district office as interpreter translator. So that's been absolutely incredible. And still feel like a dinosaur in so many things. CAT tools, I know what they are, but my experience with that is very minimal. We've been very fortunate in that we have a really good technology team in education. So they were actually the ones that were able to help us and get training for us in all of the Google suite when we went away from Word and now into the Google Sheets and Docs and Slides. But it's really been trial and error and asking our colleagues and calling on to some teachers or to the technology department. And my goodness, is YouTube your friend? Because you can look up so many things. But it really has been a game changer in showing that we have had like 1,600 interpreting requests in this last year, and how it's grown from one year to the next. And especially during the pandemic, when we all went virtual, it was, for all of us, a learning curve, but it's just been incredible. So that data with the Google Sheets, it was incredible. And we're still not all into the plan as Joshua has presented. So we're still, wish we would be a lot more further in, but I know we're in the right direction, but there's a lot of work to do. But it's trial and error, and you're learning as you go. And I'm thinking of this as I'm learning from all of you, and please call on me if I could share anything, but I am looking to all of you as experts in some kind of way, and I hope to be able to learn from all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge as well. Bertha, go ahead, please.
Hi, good evening, everybody. Let me share my story a little bit. Once upon a time was 1998, and I was teaching in California, and my principal told me, oh, you have to translate a parents meeting conference. And now I know I wasn't translating, I was interpreting. And he pushed me and he put me on the spot. And that was the beginning of my translation interpretation job. I'm still teaching, but now I'm more organized with that. And now I'm from Mexico. I have a little bit of training, and now I'm teaching in Delaware. I still assign teacher, but my other job is interpretation and translation. And I'm here to learn. And Joshua, that was amazing. Very well organized. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's not easy to put, it's a lot of information, and that's why I think this open discussion makes the difference, because you are all sharing amazing things. And so, yeah, that's the point. And we will continue doing this, certainly.
Thank you, Bertha. Aura, please.
Thank you. So I wanted to also share my experience. I don't know many of you because this is my first time here, but I'm very, very interested in everybody's experience. I was hired 3 years ago by a school in DC to set up a language access program. And as far as I know, I think it's the only school in DC that has a fully staffed language access program for one school. And so it's been a very interesting process of learning, and also like pivoting all the time, because you try something and you have to adjust and everything. We've been able to deploy a CAT tool. We've been able to get a server for the school. We have been able to hire a project manager. We have been able to learn about file conversions and file formats and this and that, and little tricks to pre-translate faster using filters, and all sorts of little things. And fortunately, the program has been growing and has been getting, I think, sustainable with time. But we're still learning a lot, and it changes every year. The pandemic changed everything after the first year, so it's been a very interesting ride. I wanted to ask you, Joshua, about how much you recommend, in particular for big school districts more than individual schools, software for workflow management. For example, things like Plunet. I used to work at an organization that had Plunet for workflow, and we used it only for translation because we did not have interpretation at that organization. But I know that Plunet has integrations with CAT tools like MemoQ, and it also has like portals for interpreters, portals for translators, and that everyone in the mix can actually join using the same tool: requesters, vendors, revisors, administration, finance, and invoice processing people, school administrators. Everyone can have their own like little portals within Clunet. So what is your experience with something like this, and is it worth deploying in a school district?
Wow, this is a great question. I can give you my answer from the perspective of a language services provider, but I wonder it would be a great opportunity to reach out to someone like Clever Palma. He's from the New York City Department of Education. He leads the translation and interpretation unit, and just by this New York City.
Yes.
I wonder what system he has in place for his interpreters and translators. But to give you an answer today, yes, Fluent is something like a business management system that yes, you can adapt it to translation and interpreting. And I wonder about the cost involved in deploying something like Fluent. So I wouldn't discard other solutions that are out there, like maybe Protimos. They're from this Ukrainian company that they develop great software tailored to the translation industries. That might be a good starting point just to search for other options. But yeah, Bluenet, it's a comprehensive system, and having a portal where your requester can you teach the requester how to use the portal, and then they can submit everything through there, and then you have your translators connected to it as well. It's amazing. Once you have it set up, it takes time to set up, but once you do it, it's all the time you spend on that, it pays off by itself. So it's great that you're doing that, and all the things you share is you are in a very advanced level of sophistication over there.
I feel like we're just trying few different things, because our school has 600 and something families that we serve, and we translate about 2 million words just for one school every year. And so it is, the better we can automate it, and like processes such as request and delivery and things like that, and invoice processing and things, the more we can do with the little stuff that we have.
Thank you very much, Aura, for your feedback, for your questions. So we're gonna go ahead and do the breakout rooms now, so we can have some conversation opportunity to speak. Before we do that, Giovanna, do you have a comment?
Yeah, very quickly. I just want everybody to tune in to an important word that Aurea just mentioned. Ora just mentioned, automation. How can we translate consistently in an organized manner, and everything that Josh has presented to us? If we do not have that system in place with those 2 million words, we would stay behind the desk the entire night and day to do that, right? So data automation is really key to understand with this Edu-Talk. So tune in and ask all the questions that you may have. And with Plunet, there are several other project management tools that you can look up to.
Yes, there's great resources, and don't be shy, ask away. This is what the conversation is for. So now we're going to ask Luis to go ahead and send us into the breakout rooms. Remember some of the questions that Josh posted on his slides. Let's continue the conversation, and then when we come back, we'll do about 40 minutes in the breakout rooms, and then we can come back and then share some of our answers.